All right, fracking. What is it? How can this one little word make some people so angry? Hydraulic fracturing is a process in which a mixture of chemicals and water is pumped into the ground at very high pressures to break apart or fracture shale rock. That shale rock then releases both natural gas and oil that can be extracted by oil companies. On the surface, this seems like a good thing. It promises to bring a lot of oil and gas into the economy, which would create jobs and give a lot of money to Americans. Furthermore, it's natural, so it must be clean and environmentally friendly. In fact, the International Energy Agency estimates that by 2035, America will be completely energy independent from foreign nations. This is another good thing. But in order to truly evaluate whether fracking is a good or a bad, we have to determine which impacts have materialized versus those that are just empty promises. And to do that, we have to dig further beneath the surface. So first, let's just break down the process of hydraulic fracturing. So you have this mixture of chemicals and water. So some of these chemicals are highly toxic, like formaldehyde, which is not only a carcinogen, but is used to preserve bodies after death. This mixture is then pumped into the earth at such high pressures that it can break apart rock thousands of feet beneath the surface. Once this rock is fractured, trapped gas and oil can freely flow out of the rock. At that point, the gas company is extracted, and that's natural gas extraction. That's really a misnomer, though, because there's nothing natural about this process. That layer of rock thousands of feet down was not meant to be broken apart. The Earth's crust was not meant to be pumped full of chemicals and water, and that natural gas was not meant to be extracted. If a mine is dug too deep, it collapses. If a river is pumped full of chemicals and toxins, the fish in it die. Whenever humans do something to the earth that shouldn't be done, there are consequences, and fracking is no different. The two most common consequences we have from fracking are an increase in earthquakes and an increase in water contamination. So first on water contamination. Pumping a mixture of chemicals and water into the ground should sound like a mistake in the most basic sense, especially considering that the flowback of oil, gas, rock, and water, 70% of it is lost in the process and never recovered by the companies. But basic science tells us that that matter doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere, and very frequently that somewhere is into people's drinking water. A study from Duke University confirms this, finding that 85% of drinking water wells in fracking sites had methane contamination, and that methane was a 17 times higher concentration rate in active fracking sites. So some people want to say that this is just correlation, but actually Duke went further than that and attributed causation. They looked at the chemical trace of the methane and found that it was the same trace as a mile beneath the Earth's surface, even though drinking water wells are only 200 feet down. Something had to lift that methane up 1 mile through rock, and the only thing that did that was fracking. So some people might ask you, what's the real harm of having a little methane in your water? It's a natural gas, cows farted out, how bad could a little methane really be? Well, all the levels detected by Duke were at or above the hazard level set by the Department of the Interior. At that level, the National Institute of Health tells us that methane can lead to dizziness, asphyxiation, drowsiness, weakness, vomiting, and on-skin contact can cause frostbite. That's not something you want in your drinking water. Furthermore, but let's just put that aside for a second. Let's say you want to give up drinking water for the rest of your life. You never take a shower, you never wash your plates. It's a small sacrifice, but it's worth it for energy independence. So let's say you put all that aside, you can still get on with fracking, right? Well, you can, as long as you don't mind your house feeling like the subway goes by every few minutes, because there's still an increase in earthquakes. You see, the central and eastern United States traditionally don't experience many earthquakes, but in 2011 to 2013, there was a 500% increase in the amount of earthquakes annually. Coincidentally, the fracking boom occurred in 2011. Sorry, but this could just be a statistical anomaly. So the United States Geological Survey looks specifically at the state of Oklahoma, a state that experienced 1 earthquake per year from 1930 to 2008. In late 2008, the Woodford Shale, Oklahoma's largest natural gas shale, experienced a tremendous surge in commercial drilling. Then from 2009 to 2013, Oklahoma saw 40 earthquakes per year. That's a 4,000% increase. And the conclusion of the United States Geological Survey was that it was a direct cause of the fracking. So if we have all this science pointing to these harms of fracking, why isn't more being done? In a word, money. The pockets of energy executives run deep, and their influence is far-reaching. For example, let's look at Austin Holland of the University of Oklahoma. He was one of the first geologists to discover the link between fracking and seismic activity. You would think the university might give him a grant or promote his research or anything of the matter, but actually the exact opposite happened. That's because Harold Hamm, the university's largest financier, did not think that the science was all there. He tried to stifle his findings and limit their impact. It's of no coincidence that Hamm is also the chairman of local energy conglomerate Continental Resources, which happens to own all of the shales in question in Holland's report. That's a clear conflict of interest. But some people might say that the economy is the most important issue of the now. We can worry about the environment later. The most important thing is energy independence, and we can still get all those benefits, right? Sort of. You can get roughly 10% of them, because fracking is an incredibly overspeculated market. The reason for that is in the nature of fracking. It's kind of like when a cowboy in a cartoon strikes oil. A lot comes out at once, and then over time it stagnates, and then it just completely plummets. All the projection numbers for fracking as to how much gas is in a shale and how much can be recovered come in a skyrocket period, so they're often vastly overestimated. In fact, the number I gave you earlier on energy independence by 2035 is based on a Department of Energy study. And a third-party nonpartisan research group found that that study will fall short by 90% by 2040. So energy independence is a myth. As if poisoning our drinking water and weakening the very ground we stand on wasn't enough, fracking isn't even profitable. But energy companies keep telling us that fracking is the energy of tomorrow. And in a commercial, BP said that it's time that America's natural gas starts working for Americans. But it doesn't benefit the economy, it doesn't benefit the environment, and it doesn't benefit Americans. The only people that America's natural gas will work for are energy executives. And that's why America cannot afford another generation of fossil fuels. Even if it's neatly packaged under the name natural gas, we need alternative energy, and we need it now. Thank you.